Alright. So, I just watched one of the most controversial films in the horror genre slash based on true events, although that's arguable, movies that I've ever watched. The Haunting of Sharon Tate. So, alright. Spoiler alert. Chances are, based on the reviews and the public outcry about this film, you probably don't want to watch it, but I'm giving you a spoiler alert just in case. So, I'm going to be talking about the film substantially. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on my feelings on this film at the end, because I think it's worth talking about. So essentially, this is a story of the murder of Sharon Tate, who, if you're not aware, she was an actress who was murdered by the Manson family. That actually did happen. Of note, Tate's family does not approve of this movie at all. And in my opinion, I think whether the movie was good or bad or whatever it was, I think something like this, you probably should talk to the family before you make it. Like, I get freedom of expression and stuff, but, like, I don't know. Out of respect. But again, we'll get into that after I do the rundown. So, you got Sharon Tate, starts with an interview of her. They go into... Actually, no, it starts out with a statement from Lionsgate, basically saying the opinions and statements of individuals herein are the thoughts of them only and do not represent Lionsgate. So obviously, when they released this, which by the way is not streaming on anything, I actually had to buy this, and now I own it. So Lionsgate apparently, when they released the Blu-ray, they did not want people to think that they agree with their own movie, so that's interesting. A nice little tidbit there. So yeah, there's an interview segment of like black and white footage of Sharon, and she's, well, Hilary as Sharon. So yeah, Hilary Duff plays Sharon, Sharon Tate, which I mean, look-wise, I get it. I get why you did that. There's some similarities. I mean, who are you going to cast as Sharon Tate, right? Like, she's kind of, you know, a big deal. There's, what was it with Margot Robbie, I think, also played her or whatever. But, like, either or, like, whatever, that's fine. Anyway, interview with Sharon. That's where they ask her if she's had psychic, like, visions ever. And she says that she had a vision of, like, her a strange man in her house, and basically everyone like she's passing dead bodies and stuff. And this is based on a rumor, so it's come out now that this isn't actually a thing that happened, but at the time of the film, I guess they were going off the rumor, basing it as a fact to make this whole concept of a story. But yeah, her family has recently said that yeah, she had no premonitions whatsoever, so that is not fact, it's fictional. Whatever. Anyway, they go a year later and to a news clip of basically the report of finding the bodies of Sharon and 4 of her friends that were staying at the house, while her husband, Roman Polanski, was in London finishing a screenwriting or something. And then they go to 3 days earlier, and they show Sharon and her friend Jay pulling up to the house, and she hadn't been there for months for whatever reason, and she's getting set up, and basically Jay, as well as her 2 other friends or whatever, I guess they're Roman's friends, I don't really know whose friends they are because they kind of come to ends a little bit, but they're basically there to watch over her, help her out while she's pregnant, you know, get her whatever she needs, make sure she's safe and taken care of and fed and all that good stuff, which is, you know, nice. But the whole time, essentially, she was kind of like wishing her husband was there, clearly. Yeah, they surprised her with like the baby room, and she's kind of like, oh, well, that's what I was gonna decorate the nursery while I was here. That was like the one thing I was looking forward to do. And they're like, oh, well, now you don't have to. So, I mean, they mean well. Then there's like some weird thing where she asks Jay about, like, do you think there's like a higher purpose? Do you think our destinies are predestined, or do you think they are, you know, on the fly, we can make our own decisions and stuff? And he's kind of like, well, I think it's open to, you know, you have a bunch of choices and you make them, and that influences your future, not some predestined thing. And at this point in watching the film, I was kind of like, okay, this seems really forced. Like, I don't know, it seemed like a random, out-of-the-blue conversation to have. I mean, I've talked about some weird stuff too, but like, there's a lead-in. This was kind of just out of the... It just seemed really forced. So, at this point in the movie, I'm like, okay, the acting is terrible. The flow is really bad. I was shaking my head thinking, oh my god, I gotta watch like an hour more of this. But, it does change in flow, eventually. So, they're playing this weird-ass Ouija board game, and it's like a little Rolodex, or like a little ball Ouija board, which makes no sense. So, like, they're like, is Sharon gonna have a beautiful baby girl? And it lands on no, and they're like, oh, haha, you're gonna have a boy. And then Sharon's like, am I gonna have a long and prosperous life? And then they roll the thing, and then there's a knock at the door, and one of her friends gets up and goes to the door, and they kind of don't pay attention to the Ouija board thing, but ooh, it lands on no. So, whatever. Just, that was really stupid too. Like, it starts off really, really stupid. Anyway, there's a guy at the door. Guess what? It's Charles Manson, who's not famous for being a cult leader at that time. He's, well, sort of, but not like connected to murders or anything. He's just Charlie. They know him as a weird guy who thinks that this guy Terry lives there still, and he's like, no, it's not, Terry doesn't live here. This is the house of Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. Like, what are you doing? Take off, eh? So he does. The dog runs out. Later in the film, there's another knock at the door. I think it's the next night or something. And there's like a little baggie left, like a little, what do you call them? One of those bubble envelopes, the yellow ones or whatever, and it says Terry on it in big letters, and it's like, from Charlie. And so at this point, Sharon is understandably getting kind of weirded out. They end up telling her at one point that, like, he had come around a few times. She's like, are you not gonna, why wouldn't you tell me this? It's kind of like something I should know. Like, this is my property, and who the fuck is he, basically? And they're like, he's never been here. Like, there was a party where I think a couple people of his group were here, but he's never been here. And she's like, okay, well, that's just great. So, and again, I don't know how much of this is actually based on truth. I'm going to say probably next to none of it, but that's fine. So, yeah, then there's another guy who's living in a trailer that's kind of like the handyman or whatever, named Steven, and he's working on his car and all that stuff, and he's like, they find the dog dead, and he buries the dog, and anyway, Sharon has visions, like a vivid dream of basically her friends and her getting murdered, and this is where my whole tone of the film changed entirely. Knowing that these are all real people and how graphic the murder scenes were actually bothered me a little bit, and I'm not the kind of person to be bothered by gore or anything, but it actually kind of made my stomach go, okay, that's not good. So that is a very bold choice of the director to show that graphic of a death of like real life people. That was a choice. And as much as I didn't enjoy it, and as much as I get the backlash for it, it's a brave choice. And I can't give him credit, but I also have to give him credit at the same time. Like, disrespectful, but ballsy. Now, don't for a second think I'm saying the movie's great. As we continue, she ends up continuously having these premonitions. She has like a vision of Steven's neck slashed, and turns out she like went to his trailer to like see if she could. Okay, so sorry. At one point, she hears something in the house, and that's when she has the visions or whatever. But she finds this like, I don't know what it's called. It looks like a reel-to-reel, like there's reels of film or tape on them, but it's like for audio. That's a little before my time, so I mean I'm old, but I'm not like prehistoric, so I've never seen one of those really. I assume it's just a tape, like an audio tape. Maybe it's like a master tape or something. Anyway, there's like a song on it, and it has like backwards messages in it, and like a demonic voice screams and like scares the shit out of Sharon. And so she at one point takes this to Steven, who's kind of like into techie stuff, and like he's got like a ham radio and stuff, and you know, he's working on his car, and so he's kind of into that stuff. So she takes him and is like, can you kind of like help me figure out something? And he's like, okay, what's up? And she's like, yeah, so this thing kind of like played on its own the other night. So they're kind of implying that there's like something supernatural in this film beyond just a premonition, right? So there's another scene where this whole time, by the way, everyone's been trying to get a hold of Roman to like, because Sharon's been freaking out like for a couple days now, panicking. She thinks that someone's out to kill her and her baby, and her friends obviously think she's nuts, but like they're trying to be supportive and whatnot. But she's like, you guys have a complete disregard of everything. You come here, you have parties, you act like you own the place, and like in fairness, like yeah, she's stressed and she's pregnant, so hormones, you can almost kind of forgive her for that, but she's still freaking out a little bit too much. Like, they are dreams, no matter how real they are. Like, logically you wouldn't think immediately, oh god, this is gonna happen, but the fact that this Charlie guy has been there and that she's been in some of his visions is not helping. So I get it, I get her thinking there's more to it than that. But anyway, there's a scene where Roman finally calls and she answers the phone, and her friends are trying to like get her to come out of her bedroom, and they're saying, listen, we just gotta talk, blah blah blah, and she's talking to Roman. Like, that's who she wants to talk to. Let her talk to her husband or whatever, right? Anyway, you can't really hear what Roman's saying on the other line, but she seems kind of distraught. Like, she tells him everything, like her visions, her everything, and I guess he's not being very supportive or whatnot. So she doesn't want to talk to her friends. She's trying to talk to her husband. So she runs a bath. She's like, I'm having a bath. Like, I'll be out in a little bit. Like, just, we're good, but just let me have some privacy, please. Fair. Anyway, at one point, the phone, I think... Oh yeah, by the way, the tapes ended up having, like, a hidden backwards message of Helter Skelter, because that was, like, involved with the Charles Manson stuff. I don't know too much about it, in all honesty, so I'm kind of going to plead ignorant on this one, but anyway, they play the tape backwards and it says, and you can hear audibly Helter Skelter in like a weird voice, so there's that. But when she's in the bathroom, the power cuts out, and I think she hears Helter Skelter on the phone or something, and she looks, and like the tub is now filling up with blood, and there's blood on the walls that says Helter Skelter on it, and it's like, okay. I think that ends up being a dream too. Honestly, I can't really remember. It kind of blends together a little bit. But shortly after, the Manson family members actually do show up. So there's two women who Sharon and her friend Abigail had seen when they were on a morning walk. And they walked past them real quickly and kind of gave the evil eye. And they were kind of weirded out, so they went back home. But they didn't think anything more of like, ew, creepy people, fuck off. But no, they're part of the Manson family. And this other guy who... they're surrounding the house, essentially, and they're putting everything on lockdown. They're panicking. They're, everyone's in the house at this point, I believe. I think, yeah, all five of them are in the house. Or six of them, I guess, because Steven, right? So, anyway, they're in the house, and they're putting lockdown. They're putting tables in front of the things and barricading. She's like, ah, shit, the nursery. The nursery window is open. She goes to the nursery room, and sure enough, just as she's about to close the window, you see a hand go like through the door, and it's one of those creepy ass Manson chicks. So she slams the window on her hand and like bloodies it up and stuff, and ends up shutting the window. And the Manson chick's just like, for fuck's sake, okay, well, we'll find another way in. And then she goes into, I think, the adjacent room. And Jay jumps through the window, and he's like, I heard stuff, like, what's up? And unfortunately, that's when you find out that they're... Now, one of them is inside the house, and then behind him, one of the girls is there, and the guy in the house has a gun, and Jay's like, what the hell? Who the hell are you? Or whatever, and he's like, I'm the devil. So, I think that was like an actual thing that this guy said. I don't know. I'm not going to actually assume anything with this movie. Yeah, so that happens, and then they're all like bound and gagged, and well, not bound and gagged, but they have like nooses ready and knives on everyone. And Sharon's like, please, she's crying, like, I just want to live long enough to have my baby. Like, you can even kill me after that, but let me have my baby. And my heart was kind of like, oh god. Anyway, she has like a screwdriver or something on the couch that she's kind of hiding, and the guy is gonna essentially kill Jay. Basically, he has like the gun to him, and Sharon kind of has a weapon now, so she stands up and says, just like, fuck off, don't kill him, take me then. You want to kill me? Take me. And the guy's like, oh, look at the little starlet's all got some balls now, or something, whatever the hell he said. And she slices him with the knife or the screwdriver or whatever it is she was holding, and he falls down, and there's a scuffle, and her friend who was hiding upstairs takes out one of the other women by smashing her head on a table, so she's like dead. They all run out. There's another one one of the other friends like strangles her and drowns her in the bathtub. So 2 of the Manson family are dead, and then there's the other guy who's sliced up, who's still alive, however, and has the gun, so he's the dangerous one. They all head to Steven's trailer, and he's working quickly to try to fix his ham radio as fast as he can to talk to someone. They finally get through, but unfortunately they all have to be quiet as soon as they like exchange a couple of sentences like help, and then the ham radio guy's like, okay, I'm gonna help, do you need an ambulance? You know, you gotta answer or I can't help you, like, I don't know where you are or whatever. I don't know how radios work, but that's the case. But anyway, this dude now is coming into the trailer, and he's got his gun, and everyone's hiding. And he goes and he walks into the back room, and he sees the door open, meaning, okay, I guess they went through the back. And so he looks out the door, and then you hear, hey, asshole, and he turns, and Steven, my boy, with a shovel right to his friggin' head, bang, smack down. And he wails on this guy with a shovel, and ends up taking him out. And they all lived happily ever after. Manson family's dead, all 6 of them survived. And they start walking back to the house, and they get to the gate, and Sharon stops outside the gate, and the others keep walking, and they turn and they look like, aren't you coming? And the gate closes, and Sharon turns around and she sees like police cars and everything. And I'm thinking, okay, so this is an interesting take. They made her live. I mean, that's cool, I guess. I don't know, it's a choice. And then she sees the 6 bodies on the ground, 5 of which the faces are revealed, and they're all her friends. And she walks up to the last one and pulls the sheet down and sees her own face dead, and she's kind of like, oh. And then she walks past the police car, and there's reporters, and the cops are trying to stop the reporters from taking pictures or getting in or whatever. And she sees all of her friends on the other side of the property, and she goes and stands with them, and then that's the end. And then they do another quote about the do you think your destiny is predestined or something, or whatever. Jay's response was like, he thinks that you just keep going, you keep repeating it until you get it right or something. So I guess that's hinting that maybe in like another world she lived or something. I don't know. And that's the movie. So, my god. I got a lot to say about this, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to say it properly. So, it did some things good, I will say, and it did some things bad. Let's get the bad out of the way. At the very beginning, the acting is atrocious on all fronts. Hilary Duff, love you, girl, but that was awful. Actually, I've never really seen you in anything, so I can't really judge. Oh no, she was in War Inc. Yeah, she had that scorpion and she put it in her pants. That was fun. But yeah, like, it was awful, and I was like, oh my god, and it's kind of like, I almost felt bad for her. It's how bad it was. But later on, like, some of her scenes were really not bad at all, and some were really bad. So it's like, okay, this is showing more, not so much the quality of the actors, and all the other actors had scenes where they were decent and scenes where they were absolutely awful. So I blame that a lot on the script. A lot of people are like flaming the acting for all the actors being awful, and I really think that you can only act as good as your script is. And the few scenes where I guess they were able to sort of more be themselves and not rely on like the script as much were a lot more realistic and believable. So, there we go. I've defended the cast a little bit and shit on the script a lot. Now, the issue of respect for Sharon Tate, her legacy, her family. Again, if you're going to make a movie like this with this sensitive a subject and you're going to go this drastically of a change of the story and insert supernatural things, and he should have talked to the family. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's just, even though I think you have a right to do it anyway, whether they give you permission or not, it's kind of like Weird Al. He's never done a Prince parody because Prince didn't want him to, and he respects the artist. So I feel in this case, you should kind of do the same. Respect the family. If they don't want this in this light, sorry, your project's dead. But they went through with it and they made the movie anyway. Now, I mean, it's so easy to say what is the bad thing, so I'm going to try to think of what are the good things of this movie. Another bad thing is the choice to show the killing scenes as graphically as they did because these are real people. That was not handled well at all. In any other movie, if these are just characters, yeah, go crazy. Hell, you can go even more all out. You can have their intestines flying out and like have their heads flying off and arms being ripped off and rib cages open and stuff. But these were just like, you know, stabbings, but like really intense. Like, there's a lot of blood and you see the people. I don't know. I don't think that was a good choice either. Again, only because these are real people that actually suffered this crime. They were actual victims. So that was not good. The music was kind of cool. I liked the music, especially the instrumental track that played over the credits. I thought it had a cool like mood to it. It suited the heaviness, and I'm not saying good or bad heaviness, I'm just saying heaviness because the subject matter is heavy. Let's be real. It suited it. There you go. Now, the idea itself to take a real life story and add a supernatural element based on a story that at the time may or may not have been true, now proven to not be true, like officially commented that that was not true. I don't absolutely hate that idea, but again, without the family's permission and like the way that they went about it is what I don't agree with. Like, if I had oh man, I don't even like thinking about this, but like it was Sharon's sister who had the most outrage about her sister being portrayed. If one of my sisters was in a movie like this, I would be freaking furious. Like, I'm actually getting mad even thinking about it. So yeah, and again, like if it was respectful, that's one thing, but like the way they did the scenes and everything, and like just the graphicness of it. I know I've said that like 1,000 times. It's just, and it's not even like for a horror movie that it was really graphic. It's for a scene of real people that was really graphic. I'm dwelling on that too much. One thing I will say in positive of this movie, hear me out, is that it actually got to my emotions a little bit. So when I was seeing these people being killed in the first like premonition scene that graphically, it kind of actually hit me knowing that these were real people. So while I hated the scene, I get why it was in there. While I also disagreed with the scene, it worked in the sense that it made me feel something. And a lot of movies don't do that lately. So that's kind of a love-hate thing. It shouldn't have been like that, but it did what it did, and it made me feel some stuff. A little bit of it was anger at the movie itself, but a lot of it was also like sorrow and like sympathy for the victims of the actual thing, not the movie characters or whatever. So, okay, so this is where it comes down to, does the good outweigh the bad? And by good, I'm using the term very loosely. With good, I'm including good soundtracks, the fact that the actors had moments where they showed that they were okay, the fact that it was a ballsy thing to do, whether or not I agree with it or not. So based on that, oh boy, what do I rate this? Probably gonna lose a bunch of like my 4 subscribers that aren't my immediate friends by saying this, but I don't think I can fail it. Did I like it? No. Did I hate it? Kind of. Can I fail it? I don't feel that I can. Just because of the few things that I said that were positive or ballsy or whatever. So, but I cannot give it a good mark. The absolute lowest mark possible for something that's a pass would be a 5. And it doesn't even feel right saying it's a 5, but I think just based on the emotions that it made me have watching it, I cannot give it a fail. So I'm giving The Haunting of Sharon Tate, an awful movie by all regards with a few okay parts, a 5. Should you watch it? No. Don't watch it. It's not a fun watch. I own this now, so it sucks to be me. Luckily, I didn't pay next to anything for it because you can't get rid of this thing. No one wants to buy it, so whatever. It'll just sit and gather dust, I guess. But like, don't watch it. It's even if you're curious, it's not worth it. I was curious and I watched it, and yeah, I had some good things to say, some bad things to say, and it had an impact on me. But it's not worth watching, honestly. So there you go. 5 out of 10, based strictly on the fact that I feel that I can't fail it. If I wanted to give it a rating with my heart, I would give it a 3, but I have to give it a 5. Yeah, that's all I got. I'm never going to watch this again. And you guys should never watch it either. Alright. We'll try to do something a little bit more upbeat next.